news story is the reaction of our Jones Act carriers to all of this. Beginning just 2 days after Maria hit, U.S. flagged Jones Act carriers were bringing cargoes back into those Puerto Rican terminals and offloading sometimes, without the benefit of electricity to run. I think the first day they had one container crane running, but they were still offloading, and they started building what I call the Iron Mountain of containers and of stuff that was, for the first couple days, was just sitting in a port. It wasn't getting out the gate. And I think a lot of us have heard that description of what happened. There just was not the truck drivers available and the means available to, or the trafficability, quite frankly, of the road network to support getting a lot of this material out of there. And to Crowley and Tote's credit, they had seen this coming and they had pre-positioned a lot of stuff down there. There was a lot of fuel down there already. There was a lot of relief supplies that they had taken in ahead of time as the storm was beginning to brew. So they were actually ahead of the game, and it was really kind of the trafficability that helped things up quite a bit. However, of course, they took the brunt of the blame, and the Jones Act took the brunt of the blame for holding up distribution and holding up, the help that was not getting out to the people because it physically couldn't get out there. But still, they pressed on, and I think there was great cooperation between the two big carriers, Tote and Crowley. Of course, Trailer Bridge and North American also serve that need, but I know Tom Crowley was telling me that Tote had carried a couple of generators down there for them so they could get their cranes operating to run. So it was good, really good cooperation. Everybody all in together, and I think that really was a good thing. And that just continues to happen. I mean, the capacity that they have thrown at the problem has been tremendous. And they've reached out and gotten extra boxes and extra vessels to lay in. There's 24 vessels, at least the last count that I know of, that are U.S. flag vessels that are being employed in that trade to make that happen. And to the best of my knowledge, they've never wanted for capacity. There's always been enough capacity down there. However, we saw a couple of waivers granted to the Jones Act. In both cases, those waivers were granted direction from DOD. Now, those of you that are Jones Act aficionados know there's kind of two ways that a waiver can kind of occur: 501 Alpha and 501 Bravo. 501 Alpha is where the DOD makes a proclamation or makes a determination that it is in the interest of national security that a waiver be granted. When they do that, DHS, who actually issues the waiver, has to issue it automatically. MARAD is out of it. We don't get consulted. It just gets issued. That's what happened in both the cases of the Florida 7-day waiver and which was extended once, and the Puerto Rico 10-day waiver, which has now expired. Actually, the last loads will have to arrive today in order to be eligible under that waiver. So that's the way those two waivers happened. They were direction from the White House. A lot of people would tell you they were issued to relieve some of the pressure, to relieve some of the concern that was being raised very loudly by governors in both of the states involved. We at MARAD had a good opportunity to influence those decisions and to keep them from being just blanket wide open waivers, to get them, in the Florida case, tightly down to a 7-day for Florida refined petroleum products only, because in its original state it was a wide open issue. In the case of Puerto Rico, we were able to get that one neck down to a reasonable size, and I think they both served their purpose. There was still plenty of capacity left over, but I think it did relieve some of the pressure and eased some of the discussion that was going on. However, the discussion still is happening up in the halls of Congress, and we all need to pay attention to that discussion that's going on and make sure that the alternate narratives that are being offered about the Jones Act and what it does and what it doesn't do, we all need to pay attention to that. We all need to stay engaged, and I know there are many in this room who have been doing just that, and I thank you from from my standpoint, for all the great work that has been gone forward in supporting that law and helping to tell the truth about what's happening. Classic example, like 5 or 6 days after the storm goes through, Geraldo Rivera, I'm watching Fox News, Geraldo Rivera standing on the shore at San Juan Harbor, and God bless his heart, you know, he had just been talking with his aunt who's there on Puerto Rico, lots of passion, as Geraldo is wont to be, and he's looking at all of the destruction on the shore side, houses collapsed, that kind of stuff, and said, oh, it's been terrible, you know, people are in want, but thank God President Trump has waived the Jones Act, because look at all the ships that are here that are here to, you know, since the Jones Act is waived. Well, he happened to be pointing to a tote container ship that was coming in, and on the horizon right behind that was a big Crowley triple-deck barge. But, you know, there you go. That's the kind of thing we have to kind of deal with, and you know, there we go. But let there be no ambiguity that the Merchant Marine stood tall this time going around. They have delivered as they always do. They flexed, the Jones Act flexed, but it did not break, and we need to make sure that it doesn't break. And I can just assure you that Elaine Chao and I stand still very strongly behind it, and we're going to continue to fight for it. And I'm going to be making some rounds on the Hill just to make sure to reinforce that here in the coming days. So we need to kind of keep that focused. Also, you know, we need to kind of keep in mind that you know, the Jones Act is the backbone of our shipping and repair industry, and it supports, you know, over 100,000 people and a pretty big budget annually. So it's critical to you know, our entire shipbuilding base, which obviously has impact to our military shipbuilding and government shipbuilding as well. That supply chain that supplies that side of the house also supplies the government side, and you know, a decrease there. They're on that supply chain doesn't build a whole lot of whatever they build every year. You know, be it feed pumps or lube oil service pumps or whatever they are. That's a limited number, and companies are staying in business just kind of on the ragged edge of that. So, again, you know, that part of it is lost on most people. They don't get that connection, and it's kind of really up to us to help make that connection on a regular basis. I would say again, it's a national security issue. It's people like to cast it as strictly as an economic issue, but it really is a national security issue that comes down to the people. Again, this industry supports a set number of people, a mariner pool, that we need to have should the bell ring and we have to go forward. And we, as I said, we think we're about 1,800 mariners short right now. And that's 1,800 to man up all of MSC, you know, as we do now, and the Maritime Security Program ships, get the RRF activated and out the door, and whatever, you know, large Jones Act tonnage, about 99 or so ships that we would probably be counting on to do the main sea lift. So we'd get them all out the door, but, you know, sustaining that level of sea lift, because it's going to require several trips. It's not just a fill it up once and send it over. It's a several trip evolution, which will in the future be in a contested environment. We're going to get shot at. You know, think back to 1942, where we were sailing merrily around the East Coast and we were getting shot out of the water continuously. Think of that evolution, or think of that sort of scenario here coming up. You know, we know very well that our potential enemies are going to be going after our logistics chain. Well, that's the Merchant Marine. So we gotta expect we're going to take some losses. We got to expect that it's not going to go perfectly. We're not going to get every mariner. We're not going to get every ship. So it's important part of the equation that we think through that and know that we need all the pieces.